Good afternoon and good morning for guests attending from different locations. I'm Shanley McLean and I'm introducing our speaker today. Dean Barnes will be presenting on Digital Rising, in which the webinar will focus on key insights that are essential for successful digital transformation. If there are any questions, there will be a Q&A at the end, and now I will hand over to Dean.
Thank you, Shanley, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar in which I hope to give you some insights into our new digital transformation service offering that we call Digital Rising. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to ATS, and that'll be a brief introduction, and then touch on the case for digital transformation before moving on to look at Digital Rising and what it seeks to achieve, and then how we use Digital Rising to define your digital manufacturing journey. And as Shanley has said, there'll be a Q&A and a wrap up after that. So moving on, briefly about myself, I'm a smart manufacturing consultant with ATS, and I have a background in both service delivery, delivering large-scale MES/MOM solutions with a global service provider, and I have worked in industry for a large automotive OEM in the UK. And of particular interest with ATS has been my involvement in innovative technologies, in smart manufacturing projects in some of the UK innovation centres, and really drawing on that in conjunction with more mainstream MES/MOM technologies to really look at how we can help digital manufacturing become a reality for UK manufacturing organisations. ATS, which some or many of you may not have heard of, are an organisation that have been around for some 35 years now or more, established back in 1986. We now have a presence in 25 and more countries, over 1,200 employees and over 4,000 customers worldwide. And the growth of the organisation has been in part organic, but also through acquisitions where we have deemed that appropriate to expanding not only the business, but really our capabilities. And some of those acquisitions will be within those expert divisions, as you see on this slide. And we also, beyond just serving industry in terms of providing their solutions, we also have the Manufacturing Operations Management Institute, MOMI, that is a key education and training partner of MESA, the Manufacturing Enterprise Solutions Association, of which ATS are a member. And in conjunction with our partners, some of which, as you will see, are themselves MES/MOM solution providers, we seek to bring all of our knowledge to Digital Rising and to work with organisations to deliver the best manufacturing solutions for them, drawing on all of the ATS capabilities, both here in the UK and globally. As I said, we have a global presence, and you see here the extent of that presence. Head office is in the Netherlands, in Haarlem, but as you can see, if you're pretty much in anywhere within those or close to those countries highlighted, you will have a local ATS presence, which we see as being key support to supporting an ever-expanding customer base and critically providing that long-term support function that organisations will require post-delivery. Moving on to a short section in which we consider the case for digital transformation. Now, this has previously, if you've seen some of our earlier webinars, been a more expanded section, but we've taken the decision now to really focus on the transition from having to make the case to that case pretty much having been made. And increasingly, organizations recognize the need for digital and recognize that their position, their competitive position, is at jeopardy if they do not adapt and adopt some form of digital manufacturing capability. Because rest assured, if you're not doing it, the opposition, your competitors, are very much either already on that journey or have established some form of manufacturing capability employing aspects of digital. We have data that shows that some 70+% of organizations have already made significant inroads into establishing some digital capabilities within their manufacturing operations. And our point is, if they're doing it, can you afford not to? And I particularly like the quote from Jack Welch, because if the rate of change on the outside within your competition exceeds what you're doing, then you will in all likelihood fall behind. And you really can't afford to do that in a very competitive and increasingly so global marketplace. And moving on to really the meat of this webinar today, our digital rising service offering. Historically, organizations have been, to some extent, baffled by the wealth of approaches, strategies, best practices, and technologies, all of whom claim to provide the answer when it comes to improving your manufacturing capability and adopting some form of digital capability. Industry 4 has been around for some time now, as many of you will be aware, as has S95, the ISA 95, functional domains, functional hierarchies and modeling. And more recently, we've adopted elements of the Singapore Smart Industry Readiness Index and the Acatech Industry 4 Maturity Index, very much providing what we see as strategic technology frameworks upon which we would seek to deliver what would need to be extensible digital manufacturing solutions into organizations. We seek not to deliver a solution for the here and now. We're very much considering how a solution can be deployed that serves today's needs, whilst ensuring that that is absolutely future-proof to secure today's investment and to allow ongoing investment to extend and enhance, both in breadth and depth of functionality, those digital manufacturing capabilities or digital manufacturing solutions. We draw very much on the Mesa manufacturing maturity model, because one of our key teachings within Digital Rising and previously in our consulting has been very much that digital is not by necessity technology-led, should not really be technology-led. It should absolutely be manufacturing need-led and ultimately delivering manufacturing business value. So the technology should really serve the solution, and the solution should really comprise your digital manufacturing capabilities. And that's very much the core theme that we work through Digital Rising. We understand your business, we identify how your business can be improved in line with your objectives and today's challenges, and then we construct a solution that allows you to realize business value incorporating digital manufacturing techniques, whilst aligning all of that with best practice approaches to seek alongside that to mature your operations such that they can take best advantage of digital today and into the future. And within all of that, Digital Rising really draws on the key concepts that we see on this slide. From Industry 4, we really consider smart manufacturing and advanced digital technologies, and there are many aspects to to Industry 4, but we really bring all of those into Digital Rising when it comes to considering how to construct the solution. From S95, really, we use that to ensure some degree of process alignment and consistency, because ultimately part of the manufacturing model that we take from Mesa is that you need to introduce or develop mature, consistent processes to ensure consistent, predictable results in order ultimately that you can begin to measure improvement. And without that, you cannot measure the improvement, and then you cannot begin to justify, based on returns on investment, the spend that you've made to deliver some manufacturing capability. And as I said on the previous slide, from the Singapore and the Acatech indices, we really draw on that strategic technology platform that they reference. And we use that, again, very much as a basis for delivering digital manufacturing capability, but it really does serve to illustrate how these need to be very much considered stepwise approaches to delivering digital, rather than, I'll use the analogy, learning to run before you can walk. You really need to go through the steps and grow slowly into a digital manufacturing capability, such that both the technology and the organization mature together, again, as I said, just to realize the best possible value from the investment that you're making in digital manufacturing. Digital rising approach is essentially a simple one, and it's broken down into 3 fundamental stages of our service offering. Explore, you would see typically mapping to what you would know as a discovery phase in any traditional IT project, seeking to understand the business. Evaluate it's underrepresented on this slide, but that really is the meat of our deliberation and analysis of everything that we've taken away from the explore phase. And realize, again, is about making all of that real, and based on the analysis within evaluate, beginning then to understand how we can provide the necessary technologies to deliver the capabilities. But as I say, understanding the business is paramount to getting this right, because ultimately we need to deliver business value. So we'll look at business strategy, we look at current state manufacturing operations, and begin to understand any challenges that they might have, in order to seek to eliminate those challenges, delivering real value, real savings, and then improving the operations by that means. We look at their digital manufacturing objectives and strategy that they may have in place today. And many organizations, as I said earlier, some 70% have identified that digital is necessary. They may have strategies, they may have plans, they may have projects in flight where they're seeking already to begin to develop a digital capacity, and we'll work with them to incorporate that into a future state solution that we would then define using digital rising. Again, within that evaluate phase, which, as I say, is a substantial piece of work that we'll do to analyze the outputs from explore. And we look at everything that you have in place today, from technology, your processes. We'll look at your current capabilities, and this will be through significant engagement with your organization across any of the departments or parts of the organization that we're looking to be improved through the digital rising process. And we'd then come up with a set of capabilities that would allow you to begin to realize those improvements that you've identified. And alongside that, as I say, we do draw heavily on the Mesa manufacturing maturity model. Although it's not a heavyweight maturity assessment, it's necessary really to allow us to highlight to you, the organization, where you might need to improve to eliminate what typically would be called cultural inertia, really to, again, to move the organization forward such that they can be ready to fully realize the value of digital manufacturing capability. And coming out of that, having identified the capabilities that we need, only at this point do we really begin to look at the technologies that we might need to begin to deliver those capabilities, such that you can then begin to realize that digital manufacturing capability. And allied to all of that, as I say, really has to be business value, and business value must in some way be delivering some return on that investment. So against all of this, we will have quantified benefits. And as I said earlier, through those consistent processes, we should be able to measure that that has been successfully delivered. And within the digital roadmap that we'll create, we will look at an implementation strategy. And really, in its simplest form, this would be what we would see as a best practice approach to the serial delivery of those capabilities, really starting, if we reference the maturity model, with that planning and control capability that in many organizations is lacking, but can deliver significant early value to their digital manufacturing operations, and then to move on from there once we've established that control, because the control allows us then to bring the consistency to our manufacturing operations. And how we begin to define the journey then, as I touched upon, is to look at the challenges that you face today. And typically, anecdotally, these will be reported to us. But what we'll do is we'll very much challenge organizations to begin to quantify those challenges, because unless we can attach value to it, we can't really begin to calculate some return on the investment, and without the return on the investment, we haven't got that demonstrable business value that I've said is really key to the digital rising approach. And within all of that, we'll then begin to define the capabilities that you need. And this may be improvement in some areas of the business. It may be new capabilities that you don't have today. And these capabilities are very much, again, aligned to those S95 activity domains, so that, again, across your organization, you have like-for-like measures as to how well each part of the organization, and certainly for large global organizations, each facility or each national division may be performing. And this allows you then ultimately to construct those portable solutions that you'd like to roll out onto your global manufacturing base. And again, once we've done all of that, we begin to quantify the benefits, again, in order that we can begin to calculate the best approach to delivering, looking to deliver early value if at all possible, but really confirm that by deploying the capabilities that we have identified, and that referencing the challenges that are being addressed and the associated benefits, we can construct that business case, the justification for the spend, ultimately the projected return on investment, and ultimately we hope the demonstrated value and improvement that is measurable. And again, that's perhaps better illustrated in this slide. And having done that capability assessment and defined those capabilities and understood what benefit each of those capabilities will be delivering, we only at this stage begin then to consider how we might then employ technology to begin to deliver those. And within Digital Rising, we have the 6 technology stages that you see here. They will be expanded upon on the following slides. And really what you see here in the white text in the columns is an example of the kind of capability or the kind of technologies that we would typically see as fitting into those technology stages. And really, transition is all about that move away from manual and paper-based systems, the introduction of computerized systems, the introduction of digital equipment. Typically in the early stages, these would be point solutions, but again, designed to be a part of a strategic digital solution, digital platform at this early stage, if you will, upon which the rest of your digital manufacturing capability will be built. So again, the need is very much to get this right from the outset. And this is where we would look at employing standard technologies, standard interfaces, and very much, again, aligning to the standards and methodologies that we identified earlier on in the webinar. Typically, as you begin to develop and build upon those early computer-based systems, you seek to integrate them. And this is not just about connecting equipment, it's also about consolidating data sets, beginning to contextualize your data such that you can get a bigger picture view of the world when ultimately you move on to visualize. And this is where you begin really to get the first insights into how your facility is working, to then give you some sense of where you might need to focus attention as you move forward. And looking beyond visualize, no surprises really, as you've compiled data, as you've presented it in some visual form, and that may be just reports, you can then begin to analyze that to provide you not only with the what, but the why. And at this stage, the understanding allows you then to make those fully informed decisions about how you may need to move on and improve the operations by specific means. Clearly, you can then begin to move on to predictive and optimization type technologies. And this we would see as being very much towards the end state of a fully evolved digital manufacturing capability. What this rather busy chart really seeks to show is a picture we like to use that really brings all of that together. It draws upon everything that we've discussed today. We look at the 6 technology stages, which go from transition top left to optimize bottom right. And again, across the top, we see the Mesa manufacturing maturity model stages from 1 through 5, where you begin to bring the planning and control initially, and you see which technologies support those types of capabilities. And as you will see, as you begin to develop and enhance and mature your digital manufacturing capability, it moves across into the continuous improvement sector, employing those more sophisticated, more advanced digital technologies that come with predict and optimize. So I hope this gives you a very a good picture, a good sense of how we seek then to position the capabilities that we've identified aligned to the technologies that we see as being necessary to support them within ultimately a delivery framework, such that you can then begin, as I say, to realize early value using the more basic, more foundational technology elements, but then very much growing that and building upon a solid foundation that should then serve as your strategic digital manufacturing platform as you grow and evolve. Again, looking at those business case and ROI projections, we have a tool that allows us to quite readily flex the delivery options and see where the best bang for buck is, if you like, so that we can then begin again to prioritize that delivery, identifying early value, identifying where there's perhaps most benefit to the organization, and looking at fitting all of that ultimately within what might be a constrained budget. And then moving on to the final artifact that we would output from a digital rising undertaking, which would be a digital roadmap. This, again, quite busy, but really does bring many elements together. These are a set of technologies or capabilities that we would see as being indicative across the time frame as to how they might be delivered within a digital journey for a manufacturing organization. Again, we see the early elements as being very much that digital enablement, moving on to digital thread, and ultimately that digital performance, or what some would call digital manufacturing excellence. Still referencing the Mesa manufacturing maturity model, again, such that we can now see how those technologies and elements also back into those different maturity levels. And again, looking at the technology stages on the bottom here. Typically, transition and integrate will move many manufacturing organizations from what might still be Industry 2, Industry 3 type environments, type capabilities, to something approaching top end of Industry 3. And then it's not a massive leap to begin to incorporate elements of visualize and analyze, and to begin to move towards what typically they aspire to, which is some level of Industry 4 capability. The challenge we face is that many organizations do seek to run before they can walk, and many organizations do aim high without realizing what we call that technology gap between transition and, for instance, analyze or predict. Many organizations don't realize that there is a significant technology gap there within a manufacturing platform in order to really begin to deliver that strategic capability. Just move on to the wrap up before we go into the Q&A. And as Shanley said at the top, really Digital Rising seeks to provide the key insights that allow you to succeed with digital transformation. Based on the skills assessment and maturity study, which are parts of Digital Rising, our organizational change, and this may be just maturing certain capabilities or putting in place a skills framework to build that fit for digital organization that you'll need to really take advantage of digital manufacturing capabilities. We identify the capability requirements that you'll need to realize your objectives, how you can employ technology to deliver on those based on our 6 key technology stages, and we'll deliver a digital roadmap with delivery phases based on best practice approach and referencing the manufacturing maturity model to both realize early value, but also to deliver the key capabilities that allow you then to move forward on a very sound footing towards that digital manufacturing excellence that you aspire to. And really stressing throughout that Digital Rising very much targets the delivery of business value. Digital Rising does not seek to be a technology-led undertaking. It's very much about solving your problems, providing the appropriate digital support to delivering the improved, enhanced, matured capabilities that you need to really take full advantage of digital manufacturing. And that's it from me. I'll now take any questions if there are any. Olga? Olga, Shanley?
Sorry, Dean, I was on mute. We have a couple of questions. Question number 1, how long does a digital rising project take and what does it cost?
Okay. Short form, it takes as long as it takes, but typically, again, we would seek to, through initial engagement, begin to understand some scope of an investigation. Typically, in a small organization, that might be the extent of their manufacturing operations, their whole shop. In a larger organization, depending on why they've come to us, whether they have specific challenges or are just looking generally to adopt digital, we'll work with them and we'll define a scope. And then within that, typically we use a sizing tool. We look on maybe 5 days engagement and then 5 days offsite. Now that can provision for a fairly substantial on-site investigation. So, you can get a lot done in those 5 days on site, and we can take that away and we can conduct that analysis through the evaluate phase and construct the artifacts within those 5 days after the fact. Again, that would be a fairly short engagement, so 10 days in total. But and that would typically cost, and we're looking at providing some form of costing tool to go along with our sizing estimation tool. Again, whatever typical consultancy fees would be, if you work on the basis of maybe the order of, I don't know, £1,000 a day, you do the math, 10 days. But in a more substantial organization across multiple lines, multiple plants, multinational, then we would typically look to spend time with them potentially on a free of charge basis, but again, we'd like to charge for a modest engagement in order that we can then define that scope of ongoing engagement and then put together a fully costed proposal after that. So simplest form, typically we'd say 10 days, 3 to 5 days on site, and then typically those 5 days off site for us to do our work. And there may be ongoing engagement. Certainly the on-site work would be with full engagement of the customer organization. I hope that answers the question sufficiently.
Thank you, Dean. And one more question. If I already have a basic MES and other digital equipment installed, how does Digital Rising deal with that?
Okay, one of the things that we recognize with Digital Rising is that most of the organizations that we may deal with will typically be brownfield sites. And we are looking to either improve what they have or to introduce something new. So assuming they have an MES solution that they're happy with, but they'd like, for instance, to integrate material management with that, or inventory, or maybe get some planning prior to running the shop, where today, maybe their planning is suboptimal. They can improve the planning function, and within a Digital Rising undertaking, we can look at what they have, understand the capabilities of that solution, how that works and fits within the wider manufacturing organization, which capabilities then, which parts of the organization sit around that then may need to be understood through that engage stage, and then really explore, and then look to understand how we can define a new set of capabilities for them, potentially supported by existing technologies that they have, and that's entirely possible, and new technologies and new capabilities, and then to look at how we construct that whole solution, again, looking at securing that security of investment for the future by really building strategic elements into it. And again, there may be a decision to take around whether or not the MES solution they have today is strategic or was something they adopted on a tactical basis some time ago or recently. And then really, again, to look at how we bring all of that into a future state manufacturing solution for them that is better than what they have today, but also then again provides a basis for ongoing development and adding more digital manufacturing capability over time. So it's entirely within the digital rising method to embrace what we would call legacy IT, legacy OT solutions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dean, and thank you for everyone who attended today. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact us, and we hope that everyone has a great day further.